The purpose of our Earth Detective Project: classifying seismograms, documenting earthquakes. Once data is collected, scientists can train robots to listen for earthquakes for us. We help professionals to better assess risk for future seismic events. The purpose of our Earth Detective Project: scientists are needing our help to identify these earthquakes and tremor sounds, so it's easier to identify. Getting more people's opinions is helpful for scientists that are identifying these earthquakes and letting them be experts. Scientists that are experts at identifying earthquakes will be able to predict when the next earthquake will be and notify the citizens to be prepared. We had to listen to seismic waves and determine whether they were earthquakes, tremors, noise, or none of the above. We can hear the difference in tremors and earthquakes better than a computer. We will train computers to do this. Ingrid Resendez's reflection: was the task easy or hard? At first, it was difficult for me to identify some sounds because earthquake sounds are very quick, but after lots of practicing, it became easier. Was the task interesting or not? The task was very interesting because after lots of practice, you were able to identify them right away, and even though it was quick sounds, it may have caused a lot of damage. What did you enjoy most and least about this task? I enjoyed how after lots of practice, I was able to identify them quickly, but something that I didn't like was how frustrating it was at first due to not knowing the difference and being confused at first. Did you encounter anything surprising or confusing? I was very shocked at the amount of noises that were recorded and only went through 60 of them. Lacey White's reflection: was the task easy or hard? The task was mostly easy, sometimes hard to tell the difference in a tremor and just noise. Was the task interesting or not? It was interesting to know so much about earthquakes. Did you encounter anything surprising? The most enjoyable thing would be knowing we are helping the world. The least enjoyable would be the repetitiveness. Did you encounter anything surprising? I found it weird that the earthquake sounded like a ghost slamming a door.
Hi, this is Andrea Nieto, and this is my personal reflection of the classifications we completed last week. I feel that the classifications were fairly easy to complete. For me, the most difficult sounds to tell apart were noise and none of the above, and that's after completing many different practice classifications between the two. The easiest sound to identify was the earthquake sound because of the loud pop. Identifying tremors was easy as well because I compared the noise to that of a gust of wind coming through the crack of a window. I found the classifications interesting because of how sure scientists have to be of what they hear. For me, there's no actual pressure when completing classifications because lives are not depending on what I hear. I can replay a sound over and over to help me with identifying what I'm hearing. I imagine it's not that easy in the moment. I enjoyed being able to share the information with my children. They thought it was so cool that an earthquake makes a specific sound, and they mentioned it looked like a heart monitor that is flatlining. The one thing that was frustrating for me was not receiving feedback on whether the classification I submitted was correct. I only received feedback during the practice between two different sounds, but I didn't receive feedback with the actual classifications. The most surprising thing about classifications is how many there are. You have to be very self-aware and confident in your hearing. I appreciated the seismograms that were included because when you felt like your hearing was failing you, your eyes pulled through.
Alice Hale's reflection: was the task easy or hard? At first, it was hard to understand. After a few try runs, I began to understand what I was supposed to be doing. After that, classifications were easy and interesting to me. Was the task interesting or not? After the initial frustration of the project, it became very interesting to hear what the different sounds were based on their classification. What did you enjoy the most and least about the task? I enjoyed learning how the classification sounded the most about the task. I disliked how it took me a little longer to figure out how to do classifications correctly, but with time I was able to get it down. Did you encounter anything surprising or confusing? Again, the initial task was slightly confusing to me until I finally able to comprehend all aspects of the assignment. I was surprised that the classifications became easily after some practice. Once scientists have enough collected, they can train a robot to listen for earthquakes. This will be beneficial for us and help scientists advance technology.